Today we're going to be talking about rests. Everybody loves rests, but we're going to make this really, really simple, and you are going to like this at the end of this. You will understand it, I'll guarantee you. So let's get started. Now, if you're a visual learner, this is going to be great for you, because that's how I teach rests and timing. This is the type of question you might get in a basic theory exam. So you see here, the first one. There's 2 beats in a bar, and the half notes getting 1. So I always tell students, draw what you will be creating. So in this measure, they need 2 half notes, because it's going to go 1, 2. So the first note's an 8th note. Now, there are just some simple rules when we're writing rests. Obviously that 8th note isn't a half note, so we need to make it one. Always use the same type of rest as the note it's beside to create something. So, because that's an 8th note, I'm going to put an 8th rest. Now, 2 8s only made a quarter, but I still need to make that half note. So now, because those 2 made a quarter, I can now use a quarter rest, and there, beat 1 is complete. Now look at here. This is a quarter note. It's not a half note, so we'll put a quarter rest right in front of it, because now it makes a half note. That's it. That's all you have to do for that one. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We're still doing 2 half notes. Beat 1 has a quarter note. What are we going to put? A quarter rest. Now it's a half note. Now there's nothing here. We are going to put a half rest, because a half note's equaling 1. Okay, so the half rest sits on line 3. Okay, the next one that you could get, to make sure there's watch the time signature changes. What are we creating in this measure? We're creating 2 quarter notes. Now this is a triplet. So when we're doing rests, okay, we play this like one and a triplet, okay? But when we're using rests, when we're creating rests, just get rid of him in your counting. Now what do 2 8s make? Yes, they made already the quarter. So that beat's already done. Beat 1 is already done. So we're going 1. Okay, so we're playing 3. We have to play it. But when you're counting in rests, just get rid of him and see what these guys create. Here we have a 16th. Remember, we always have to use the same type of rest as the note it's beside to create something. So, because that's a 16th, we draw another 16th in front. Now, 2 16ths make what? Remember, this is just very simple math. Make an 8th. And if you don't know that, look at in fractions. 2 16, cut that in half, equals 1/8. Okay? So, we have an 8th. Well, now, we still don't have a quarter, so because we have an 8th, we can now put an 8th in front. Now we've built the quarter. Now we have a measure with nothing. We always, no matter what the time signature is, nothing is nothing. We use a whole rest. So it hangs off of line 4. I have students that will fill this up with, the timing. Yes, mathematically that's correct, but if I gave you 1,000,000 zeros, what are you going to have? Nada. So nada is nada. It's a whole rest, no matter what the time signature is. Remember that. It's very easy to get your marks on this, so whole rest, nothing, no matter what the time signature is. Now, just before we go on, we're talking about rest, so let's learn to draw them. Sometimes you'll get an MP in your exam, meaning misplaced. Students sometimes misplace where the rest goes. So quickly, a whole note, a whole rest, and remember the whole rest covers any time signature of nothing, right? It's a measure of silence. Rests actually mean sounds of silence, all right? So whole rest hangs off of line 4. Half rest sits on line 3. Now, do you notice how they both occupy the same space? So they both occupy space 3. One hangs off of line 4, one sits on line 3. A quarter rest. So we just do like a little V, starting on line 4, come back, and just loop around. Okay, quarter rest for 1 beat. for a quarter note or just a quarter rest at this point. Eighth note, eighth rest. Looks like a little number 7. It starts on space 3. A 16th rest. Starts in space 3 as well, and then we just do another little flag. Now remember we talked about the breve notes, and the breve, this is a breve rest, where you'll see this only in a 4/2 time signature, remember that? And it touches both line 3 and line 4. Now I'm just going to quickly draw you a 16th note, because we don't have that there. I mean, 32nd note. It has 3 flags. And the rest would have, I'll draw it here. The rest would have 3 flags. Oh, I'm not doing it very good. That's the only one where you're going to start on space 4, because there's going to be a flag here and a flag there in space 2. And now, okay, so now let's just talk about timing. Okay, we just said a rest is a sound of silence. Okay, so now we have to divide the beats into strong and weak beats. For instance, let's take, if there's 4 beats in a measure. And remember, and for the basic theory, we're only talking about simple time. So it can be a 4 on top, a 3 on top, or a 2 on top. So if there's a 4 on top, our beats would go strong, weak, medium, weak, or they would go like, it's a 1, 2, 1, 2, twice, right? So strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. 3 beats in a bar. When we see 3 in a measure, it means it's going strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak. 2 beats. Remember, it's like the 4, but twice. Strong, weak, strong, weak. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, why is that important? Because when we're writing rests, there's just a few rules. Now, this is a song I created. Let me just sing it to you. It's called the Rest Song. So, the strong carries the weak. The strong carries the weak. If the strong don't carry the weak, then the weak stand alone. Okay, that music in the background kind of took it off. When I do sing this, some of my students just look at me and go, you didn't just do that. Well, yes, I did. But remember, the strong carries the weak. The strong carries the weak. If the strong don't carry the weak, then the weak stand alone. Why is this important? So, okay, so just a little bit of the rules. Okay, so the one rule, remember we just said the strong carry the weak. All right, so these are the rules for the rest rules. So here we'll see in 4 we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we're completing a beat. All right, here we have a whole rest. Now, the thing you want to remember is if the strong don't carry the weak, we need to leave them by themselves. And what I tell students is never combine beats 2 and 3. Okay? Never combine beats 2 and 3. If we remember that, that will take care of the weak carrying the strong, which would never happen. You cannot do that. The strong can only carry the weak. Okay, and we're going to show you more of that in a second. The other rule to remember is always complete each beat. Like see, for here we're making 4 quarters. Always complete each beat of that beat. See, we're making a quarter. The 8th, it wasn't complete. So we need to put the exact same type of rest as the note it's beside. So that's pretty much all the rules. Never combine beats 2 and 3. And always use the same rest as the note it's beside if we're completing beats. And then we take it from there. And, of course, a whole rest for a whole bunch of nothing. Let's go back to the question we could be asked. Okay, so here, now we have 3/8. Okay, what are we going to do? We are creating 3/8 in this measure. Well, here we have an 8th note, so he's done. But now there's a dot beside that 8th. So the dot is always half the value of the note it's beside. So what's half of an 8th? It's a 16th. So because that dot is there, we need to draw the 16th rest right beside it, because 2 16ths now made another 8th. So you see, that's the start of, that dot was the start of beat 2. So there, he's done. Okay, we added the other 16th. Now we have a 16th here. Use the same type of rest. There, and now he's done. Finished. That question's done. So look at here. We're still creating 3/8. Now I tell students, draw out what you're creating. And then you can always just erase it. You know, you always use a pencil, of course, and then just erase it. And just hand in your work with the completed work. So 2/16. What do they make? Always take 2 of something. See what they make. They made an 1/8. Beat 1's done. See? Beat 1. Now remember what we said? This is beat 1, 2, 3. The strong carry the weak. The strong carry the weak. If the strong don't carry the weak, then the weak stand alone. Now why didn't I combine those? Mathematically would be correct. That's 1, 2, 3, because there's 3/8. Remember in the time signature? Because these are 2 weak beats. The weaks have to stand alone. And the first beat didn't carry. The strong didn't carry the weak, so we have to keep them. And we can never, never combine beats 2 and 3 at any rate. So that's why they stood alone. Okay, let's just do one more here where it's 4 quarters. So what are we creating? We're creating 4 quarter notes. Okay, let's look at what we have first, what's on this page. Well, we have a triplet of 2 quarters. So, 2 quarters. So that there's 3 of them. Would I take all 3 of these? No, because it's a triplet. That means I got to play that all in something. So, remember, just don't count him. What do these guys make? Okay, those are 2 quarters. So, really, they made a half. So, we took care of those beats. They're done. Okay, now here, what do we have? We have beats 1 and 2 left. Okay, so what can we do? Can the strong, remember with 1, 2, 3, 4, it's strong, weak, strong, weak. Okay, now notes, it doesn't matter if you're combining. You can do whatever you want with notes. This is just for rests. That's the rules for rests, okay? So here, because I need a strong and a weak, I can combine those. So I need to make 2 quarters. What do I make it with? A half rest. See? So just so that you could see it, that's what it would look like, the finished product. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you're playing the triplet in those 2 beats, even though there's 3 quarters. So I hope you understand that. Again, 4 quarters. We already have 2, so they're done. Oh, let's finish him off. He's only got an 1/8. We'll put an 1/8. So he's done. We just got to do him. There we go. That's done. Okay, let's take a look here. 4 quarters. And I strongly suggest you draw it out because it'll keep you thinking straight and you'll see exactly what you've done on the actual page. He's done. See, beat 4 is done. So this is beat 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have an 1/8 and a dot, and there's a 16th there. Well, remember, the dot is always half the value, so that means it's 2/16. What did 2/16 create? An 1/8. Well, now I take that 1/8 and that 1/8, and what do they create? Oh, so that's all beat 1 is done with these guys. Now I have beats 2 and 3. Strong, weak, strong, weak. That would be the weak carrying the strong. Can we do that? No. So we are going to beat 2, therefore we'll stand alone, and so we'll beat 3 because we can never combine beats 2 and 3. So hope all that helps. Now we're going to do some of our Mozart effect. Okay, so now we're going to read a little bit from our Mozart effect. So this is pretty interesting. Non-verbal communication between an autistic child playing the drums and a therapist on piano can serve to bring a child out of isolation. The Journal of the American Medical Association reported, when you have a child who is unable to relate to life successfully, cannot endure human relationships, or has communication difficulties, this improvisation can be very effective. It's a way of reaching into the child's mind. Robbins compared the musical interaction to a conversation. As we speak, we improvise. You ask a question, I respond. So it is with music. It can be used as flexibly as we use speech to reach children with language problems. It bypasses those difficulties. Neurologic research is discovering that the brain comes into synthetic activity in response to music. Some say the brain is fundamentally programmed so that the organic connections are symphonic rather than mechanistic. See, so music is important. And I hope today's lesson, I hope you understood it. I think you did. So see you soon.